Hey everybody, I have decided to follow a little bit of my own advice, and instead of just writing articles, I'm also going to read them out, put them in video format. So we're going to start off with our most recent article for Bleeding Fool, which is The Changing Focus of Comicsgate. What happens when a free agent indie comic publisher looks into the heart of Comicsgate? Heaven and hell, let's start there. Hell, we can see a mainstream comic market jealously guarded by gatekeepers obsessed with their own moralizing propaganda, gatekeepers who fling accusations of impurity at any who dare offer critique when they're not preoccupied conducting nefarious back-channel whisper campaigns to sabotage careers. Reference there to the Whisper Network article on Bleeding Fool. It is a hell that craves control over the cultural narrative despite frequently being unable to write its own way out of a paper bag. A mediocre inferno that buries talent, fillets obedience, and relentlessly offers readers a bleak future composed of mandatory opinions. I prefer heaven, a place where great entertainment enriches us with unimaginable experiences, universal truths, and engaging adventure. In this meritocracy, any creator can tell any story, and clearly informed readers enjoy the best. Freedom to create, critique, and share facilitates the formation of genuine value, lifting it to the surface for all to enjoy. There are no gatekeepers parceling out permission. Anyone willing can jump in, grow their skills, and be acknowledged. That's what I had in mind when I called for a new market back in 2009. See my old articles. So where does Comicsgate fit into all this? Is it bringing us closer to a shimmering comic Valhalla, or tacking new subdivisions onto the same old hell? The movement is shrouded in polarized opinion, making it difficult for an outsider to discern the contours. But I know who the underdog is. When transnational media outlets, Comedy Central, BuzzFeed, Polygon, The Daily Beast, and The Telegraph are all desperately attacking a single person who makes naughty YouTube videos, well, I just assume these outlets are united against institutional power. The media repeat a chorus you may have heard before. Impartial arbiters of blue-checked gospel have called Comicsgate the, quote, center of alt-right comics hate speech, and a, quote, anti-diversity harassment campaign. Such phrases instantaneously vitiate their own credibility. I've seen the establishment and their swarm hurl these lies at any inconvenient person existing outside of their circle of power, including me, with absolutely nothing to substantiate their accusations, aside from Twitter's algorithmic seal of approval. Perhaps this is the one time when the boy who cried wolf was staring into a set of fangs, but at this point, you can't blame the townsfolk for their skepticism. So if I can't go off of that, what am I going to go off of? My assessment of anti-Comicsgate declarations is further colored by the fact that many of these professionals have, out of a blank blue sky, blocked Vivid publishing on social media. I'm not inclined to give folks the benefit of the doubt when their default stance is to bury me in my work without provocation. Comicsgate folks, on the other hand, don't have me blocked. And I really like a David versus Goliath setup. So what do they claim this movement is all about? Fortunately for me, there's a website called What is Comicsgate? Whatiscomicsgate.com. They say, quote, Comicsgate is an alliance of comic book fans, critics, and creators who have found common cause in standing up against what they see as a hard push by social justice warriors into their hobby. Comicsgate is not about political ideology or identity. There are conservatives and liberals, there are black and white, gay and straight, Christian and atheist, and everything under the sun. Where Comicsgate people disagree is not where they put their focus, it's where they agree that they ally. Comics are about entertainment, not political or ideological proselytizing. End quote. So 100% sunshine and hot rainbows. That is good to hear. Finally, a hashtag movement with no downside. Judging by the talking points, Comicsgate is bringing us all closer to Valhalla, a consumer movement focused on celebrating merit. One figurehead of the movement recently made a proclamation to that effect, saying that he loved to signal boost indie comic campaigns solely for the warm satisfaction of seeing others succeed. A person on Twitter asked whether that magnanimous signal boostery had any preconditions, and here is where the reality begins to peel away from the talking points. This person replied, "No, I can't comprehend why an independent creator wouldn't subscribe to Comicsgate's simple principles of customer service. I can't support people who will not vocally defy cancel culture. I hope those indie creators arrive at the same conclusions we have and join us soon." So it's at this point that we actually jumped in and engaged a little bit, and the person was friendly towards us. But the attitude remained that Comicsgate has a monopoly on valid independent work. I omit names here because I want to keep the focus on the ideas in force rather than target a particular person. And the idea conveyed there matters because it seems to be the prevailing attitude of the movement. Rather than quality, loyalty serves as the coin of the realm. Those who fail to declare allegiance will be surprised to find that suddenly they oppose customer service by definition. Whoops. I call these label traps. Do you oppose Antifa? Then you're a fascist by definition. I'm sure you can rattle off a number of movements that use label traps as recruiting and containment tools. You don't need a big list from me, but every time I see a label trap in action, it's a red flag because there's something else under that label. This leads to a thought experiment we call Schrodinger's comic. You receive a comic book in the mail, read it, and you enjoy it. But you do not know whether the author is Zoe Quinn or Ethan Van Sciver. They can be recognized as the standard bearers of their respective movements, so I think it's fine to use them as examples here in this little hypothetical. So the question, this book you read, was it a good comic? There's actually an exchange that went where the person said, hey, EVS wrote it. Well then yeah, it'd be a good comic. Sure, and let's say you enjoyed the story, the art, all that, but then you find out that actually Zoe Quinn wrote it. What? Well then it would suck. No, but you just said it's a good comic. It's the same artwork, the same words, the same everything. It's just that you have discovered it comes from Zoe Quinn instead of EVS. Well, she wouldn't be able to write something good, so it would be bad. And I'm paraphrasing an actual real conversation from a friend who was being courted by Comicsgate loyalists to join the movement. Puzzled, he finally asked this person, I mean, isn't this supposed to be all about getting some alternatives to the mainstream stuff and helping promote good indie comics? And the response was, we're beyond that now. Excuse my goofy voice, I just have a little too much fun. And I don't want to judge too much from a handful of interactions like this. The comics industry does need revitalizing alternatives to the atrophied, pious corporate establishment, and I would utterly love it if Comicsgate could be improving things. So, I tried to look a little deeper and push past this limited interaction, and good lord, I can't even begin to untangle the avowing, the disavowing, the reavowing, the splinter factions, the serial falling outs. There's this thing called War Campaign, and that's not the title of a book. I mean, it looks like a mess. It looks less like a burgeoning creative market and more like internet blood sports and popularity power games. I don't see conversations about characters or story, but instead arguments about who is really Comicsgate and who is throwing who out of the movement and endless internet posturing. On social media sometime back, this was driven home to me after seeing Comicsgate people literally burning comics they had purchased, following some inscrutable fracture point that set them at odds with a creator they no longer considered an ally. The same book that they had touted as a superlative ascendant piece of literature suddenly became an object of contempt just in the blink of an eye. And that makes me think Comicsgate is not about comics. Those are just being used as props. They're tokens of allegiance. Customers are supporting their favorite culture war gladiator, and they're buying e-celeb merch to signal that support. They're not actually investing in entertainment that they're enjoying. Crowdfunding is important here primarily as a means for keeping score and for optics. Now, perhaps The Sausage Factory is an absolute horror show, but hey, if it's serving up great comics and there's good stuff coming out of it, then I suppose it's all fine in the end, which does lead us to the obvious question, at least as a byproduct, is Comicsgate producing good comics? Well, they fund a great many more comics than they actually deliver, so right off the bat we are looking at a subset. And due to the polarization around the movement, it's difficult to know whether a review is even remotely objective. Jawbreakers and Goddess Mode are considered prominent Comicsgate and anti-Comicsgate books. I know of only one outfit that has reviewed both of them, my buddies at Shots with Comics, and they say both were terrible. So, I guess what should be your takeaway from this article, or at this point from this video? Am I telling you to leave Comicsgate, join anti, but not those anti-Comicsgate? No, because that's all dumb. Pigeonholing yourself is totally irrelevant to what matters, which to me is a shining valhalla of great work, value, and creative opportunity for all. So is Comicsgate doing anything helpful? At one point in time, I mean, it probably was. Consumer movements like this don't erupt over nothing. It revealed the depth of contempt harbored by mainstream activists towards their own misrepresentations of their customer base. And it helped those customers connect with one another to reorient. But a funny thing happens when a hashtag sees a mirror. What was once a label to identify news and external scandal becomes a tribal identity, asserting ownership over those who had once used it as a filtering tool. Now Comicsgate seems to be about corralling disaffected customers and dictating to them who is approved or disapproved in the world of indie comics. To the degree it engages in this behavior, it is every bit as destructive to a creative market as the activist tyrants it once decried. You get what you vote for, and we're all voting all the time. If you want loyalty pledges, focus on loyalty pledges. I mean, if you want to, go for it. But if you want good work, focus on merit wherever it may be found. Clicks and movements seem strong, and they do provide conditional camaraderie, but that only lasts until the pendulum swings or one key figure falters, and then it all crumbles away like a stale cookie. But if you can build a foundation of content that people love, not loving it due to ephemeral allegiance, but simply because they actually enjoy it, great work lasts forever, and it has the power to unite people in a stronger and more authentic way than tribal obedience. If we decide to, we can foster a meritocracy that creates more great work. We can build without bending the knee to either the woke corporations or petty e-celeb cliques. Take it from me, it is more than possible to grow in freedom. It's a long journey, but we are drawing closer to something incredible. So I'll leave you with this. Read what you want, think what you want, and cut free because it is worth it.